Go ahead.
Yeah.
Okay, so hi, my name is Doreen. I was born in Kenya, in Nakuru. And I lived here until I was 16, and then we moved to America, and we stayed there until now I'm 35. So,
So like you've been to America for 14 years?
almost 18 years.
18 years.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Hello, my name is Jeff. I was born in Washington State in America, and I lived there for 48 years and just came to Kenya last year.
Yeah.
And yeah, so I met Doreen. We've been together for 8 years now.
Yeah.
And we decided to come to Kenya for a increase in our quality of life.
Yeah.
We were in the suburban commuter life in America, and that just really wore us down.
Yeah.
It wasn't the way that we wanted to live. I grew up on a farm. Doreen grew up here in Nakuru, and we both wanted to get back to a more rural, slower pace of life.
Yeah.
You know, just more concentration on day to day as opposed to get up early, get in the car, get to work, come back home in the dark, sleep for a few hours and do it again.
Yeah.
It just really wore us down, and we wanted to be a little closer to nature with a better lifestyle here in Kenya, and we found it.
Yeah. And the first time that we came to Kenya was for my brother's funeral. He passed away when we were in America, and we brought him here.
When was that?
2019.
2019, the first time
That was
visiting.
That was my first
for him
time
to visit, and he was like so in love with Kenya, and
right away.
yeah.
Right
so
away.
when we went back to America, we kept talking about, we should plan to retire in Kenya like 10 years, and then we were like 5 years, and then it was like 2 years, and then we were just like, let's just leave.
Yeah.
And that's how we decided to just come.
Well, and then the last few years in America were not great either.
Yeah.
And the political situation changed. It became much more divisive.
Yeah.
There were a lot of shootings. America is just, it's different than when I grew up there.
Yeah.
And so we just wanted to get someplace where we could have more peace and more quiet.
Yeah.
And you moved with 2 kids.
Yes, we packed our stuff and we just left. I mean, we were supposed to actually, it was a plan to come for a vacation, and we just kind of figure out from there, and then we were just like, no, let's just move. And that's how we decided to just pack and come here. We didn't have any plan.
Okay.
We just came.
Yeah, we figured it out when we got here.
Yeah.
Okay, so I have a question, Jeff. In Washington, you grew up in the farm, yeah?
Mm-hmm.
Is life in the farm in America different from life here in Kenya?
I would say the biggest difference is if you're on a farm in America, you're really, you're way out maybe in the countryside, but you're still connected to the city because everybody has vehicles, cars, and you need to go to the cities and the towns to get supplies to run your farm. So even though you are maybe in a small town or a rural area, you're still more connected to the city life than the rural people here in Kenya who grow their own food, and that's where they stay, is in the village and on the farm. And so the lifestyle there is much slower. You don't find as many TVs, internet connections, things like that. So it's a much more natural connection to your environment there. In America, even though you're on the farm, you still have lots of equipment and vehicles and things.
And life is also fast.
Yes, yes it is, because of America, living on a farm, you still have to make a lot of money, and so the work is very hard and very fast, especially compared here to Kenya. Yeah, so that's the difference really, is that pace of life. America, you work non-stop all the time and everyone's tired.
So when you're living in the farm in America, you still pay bills like rent?
Yes, yes, there's rent.
Because here in
There's,
Kenya, when you're living in the farm in countryside, you're living in your home.
Yes.
well, there's not only rent, but even if you own the place, there's property taxes. And then there's all kinds of different taxes and fees.
And the bills, water bills.
Yes. So you can't just sit back and relax.
Oh.
There's always some bill coming your way, even if you own the land. So yeah, that makes it forces you to work.
Yeah.
You can't get away from it.
Okay. So Jeff visited Kenya for the first time in 2019.
Yeah.
But now he has moved to live here in Kenya.
Yeah.
How long have you been here?
Almost a year.
Yeah. Almost a year.
Almost 12 months, yeah.
And Dolina has lived in America for 18 years.
Yes.
So let's compare life in America and also in Kenya.
Yeah, so for me, when I actually left here, I feel like you don't really know what to expect because no one really tells you. And then when you get there, that's when you realize, like, for me, I felt like when we went, it was like me and my brother and my mom, my dad and my older brother had already gone. So when we got there, it was very different for us because we were like, where are the people? Where is the social life? That was a shock for us. The culture difference, like where in America people are more just everyone is private.
Yeah.
You don't really see. You see how in Kenya the difference between Kenya and America. Kenya is like there's people outside. You go, you talk to friends. You
know your neighbors.
You know your neighbors. In America, we didn't know our neighbor. Our neighbors around, like close to us. We didn't know people. We were just like
you never see them.
You don't see them because people are working constantly. So that was a huge culture shock for us because we were expecting, we're gonna have friends, we're gonna do these things that we do here, but it was different. And that was huge for me. And then another thing was the school.
Yeah.
I left here when I was in Form 2.
Yes.
So when I got to America, it was so different. We go to school with with home clothes.
Yeah.
So that was new for me.
In America, people go to school with home clothes?
Yes, we just wear home civilian clothes.
Unless you're in a special private school that has uniforms, but all public schools are just whatever.
Yeah. So that one was different for me. I was kind of excited just for a change, but then I came to realize that you tend to want to look like other kids. So I was like, for me, I used to wear skirts. I remember me telling my dad, I want pants, I want to wear the Jordans, like they're like kids. So I can just like fit in.
Yeah.
And
there's a lot of pressure in American schools about what you wear.
And I felt like for me, I kind of lost who I was because I'm trying to fit in and be like other people that's not myself. Yeah, that was a huge culture shock for me.
Okay.
Yeah, and just kind of trying to have friends, and then you have this thick accent. A lot of people don't understand you. Everybody would ask you like, "What are you saying?" all the time. I became quiet. So I became really quiet, and a lot of people would think that I'm shy, but it was just like you're afraid that people are gonna make fun of you and stuff like that. So yeah, that was a huge difference. Culture shock for me.
And having been to school in Kenya, compare like education in Kenya and America, the quality of education.
For the quality of education, I felt like America, the teachers, they're more friendly than here in Kenya. I mean, I feel like when I was in Kenya, we were afraid of the teachers. But in America, the teachers they're friendlier.
Yeah.
They help you with, like they show you around, they help you like things that you need help. Then they're more friendlier and more opening for you to feel more comfortable than being here in Kenya. Because I always felt like in Kenya it was so strict. You know how the boarding schools are.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that was, I felt like I liked the American better than the schooling here because the teachers are more friendly and more opening. Like you can go to them, you can talk to them like a friend.
Make jokes and things.
Yeah.
But for our kids coming back here to Kenya, it was kind of the opposite.
The opposite.
Kids now,
Braxton was in kindergarten and first, second, third.
Yeah.
grades in America, and he would come home so exhausted, and then there's still homework, and we had to fight with him to get the homework done. He just wanted to go and rest.
Be quiet by himself.
And he was getting a lot of pressure from his friends to have the right haircut and these kinds of things, and that stressed him out. Here in Kenya, he would get breaks we had in between classes. And so he would actually have a longer school day here in Kenya, but he would come home and do his homework with no problem.
And still play too.
And then still have energy to play. And so both our boys really liked the Kenya schools much better than the American school. They had much better
And also
outcomes.
too, it depends with the school that you go, because I always tell them, like, this school I went to compared to the school they went to, it's so different.
That's true.
Because the school they went to, it's more open to express yourself. You know, when I went to school here, we didn't really express ourselves. We didn't, there was no like, the self-expression, I feel like. I don't even know if I'm making sense, but yeah, so that, I always tell them, like, I wish I could go to the school they went to. I feel like it would have given me a different experience than the school that I went to. So it's, because we fell in love with their school. And then the food, they feed them food like fresh, organic, made every day. And in America, we had like, they would give the packed lunch.
Well, the school lunch in America, everything is packaged. Everything is wrapped in plastic, and there's little containers of this and little containers of that, and it's really not healthy. And it's not to criticize American schools. They're doing what they can with limited money. But here in Kenya, they were getting fresh food from the farm, cooked daily.
Fruits,
and they loved it. They ate tons of it, and they were always excited to go to school and eat.
And that's why every day when they come home, they'll tell us, oh, we ate this and this today. So they're excited every day. They're like, oh my gosh, the school menu is amazing.
That was a significant difference.
Talk about the weather in the U.S.
Oh yeah. So
for the first time, which state?
We moved to California, and when we got there, it was around March, so it was cold for us. I remember when we just got off the plane and we came out, when my dad came to pick us up, we could not believe how cold it was. And I remember I had a skirt on and just like a top, and I was just like, oh my gosh, this is really cold. Like, you can barely feel your face, that cold. And we, you know, as you live there a little longer, you kind of adapt to it. But yeah, that weather really shocked us. It was too cold, especially coming from Kenya, you know. I mean, Kenya can be cold, like in Nakuru it gets cold like in the morning, and in the evening it's cold. It can get really cold. But it's not as cold as when we went to America. It can be cold all day, it's just cold. And you know.
Well, and I should say where I grew up in Washington State, we had snow. And so Doreen got to see snow for the first time and experience that real cold where I grew up, which was very cold. And then, so she got to experience all of that. That was kind of a shocker. And you did not like that cold.
I didn't. We lived in Seattle, so Seattle was so cold.
California?
Yeah, we moved, when Jeff and I met, we moved to Seattle, and we stayed there for 3 years, and it was cold and rainy. It rains a lot in Seattle, so that, I don't know how we stayed there for 3 years, but we did. It's a beautiful city, you know, but it was just too cold.
Very cold and gray, and
very green.
And then where we lived in California as well, it would get hot, dangerously hot, over 110 degrees during the summers. And when we were there was wildfires, so there was all this smoke in the air, and it was difficult weather-wise in the U.S. The weather is changing there rapidly with the climate change, and here sun goes up at the same time, sun goes down at the same time. The day-to-day temperatures are this close.
Yeah.
So for me, it's so easy. In America, we had to have different
Clothing, like
Clothing.
season. When the season change, you bring the summer clothes out, and then when it's winter, you have to pack all the clothes, summer clothes, and bring out the winter. I had to get used to that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We didn't have anything like that here.
No.
I just wear flip-flops everywhere.
Yeah.
I almost never
Even
wear
when
socks
it's cold,
anymore.
Jeff is like, "Oh, this is the best."
The best way.
And for me, I'm like, "Oh my gosh, I don't remember Nakuru being this cold." But this time I'm like, wow, Nakuru actually gets pretty cold, you know? And
No, it doesn't.
for him,
For him.
I'm
Not for
speaking for
me.
myself.
Not for me, it doesn't.
Yeah.
No, for me, it's a nice break. Malindi is quite hot.
Yeah.
And it doesn't cool down at night. And so I struggle with sleeping because I just get hot and toss and turn
Yeah.
in that temperature. And
Yeah.
here in Nakuru, I sleep like a rock.
Yeah.
And the boys?
Oh, the boys, they were pretty good. I mean,
Hey, you're
at
fine.
night there's air conditioning, so I think that helps. In Malindi, like I felt like you have to have air condition
To sleep well.
to be able to sleep well. Otherwise, it's just like you're awake or sleep outside. Most people I've noticed in Malindi, they just kind of sleep outside.
Oh.
Yeah, yeah, like the locals.
Yeah.
Which is actually pretty cool.
Yeah, it's plenty warm enough to do that, for sure.
Talk about governance systems in US and Kenya.
We don't run into a lot of governance here in Kenya,
No.
but we follow the local politics and things like that.
Yeah.
And as an American coming in, I would say that America, well, when I was younger, America used to be quite law and order all the time. And so we would look at countries elsewhere in the world and say, oh, you're so corrupt, you're so corrupt. And now, within the last 10 years in America, America is just as corrupt as anywhere you find in Africa. Yeah, America has changed radically. And the politics is starting to become violent. And things that I never saw 20 years ago. So I would say that now American politics and government is much more like what we accused others of when I was a child. Yeah, so coming here to Kenya and seeing the corruption and seeing the chaos and all the different things happening, it reminds me of the protests and the violence and the corruption where I came from in America. It really does. It would have been a shock for me if I had come here 10 years ago and seen this for the first time. It would have been really unsettling. But after the last few years in America, it feels more the same.
And during governance?
I don't really like to talk about that stuff because I try to not to pay much attention to it, but I mean it's good to know what's going on in the country. But yeah, I feel like it's been like that in America. When we got to America, it was like different, you know, there was more
Order.
Yes, there was more order there, and I just felt like
Stability.
Stability, yes. But then as years went by and, you know, the government just changed and there was just lots of violence and it brought a lot of hate. And I feel like the hate has been there, but kind of low key. But this one kind of just brought it out. So it's like, for me as an immigrant, going out used to be kind of scary for me because now you're like, oh my gosh, there's shootings now in stores, in supermarkets, shootings at cinemas, at school. So every time I would go out, it's kind of like you're just like looking behind your back to see like, or you're wondering like, is this person actually like black people? You know, you're kind of like in your head, you're worried. And I felt like it became too much to a point where I just didn't feel safe to be there.
Ever experienced racism in America?
Yes, a lot.
Situation or?
Like I remember my first racism experience was at school, high school, and I remember it was like it was lunchtime and we were all getting in line to get our lunch, and one of the kids just called me N-word, and he was telling me to go back to where I came from, and that really shook me because I was new, and I was new in that school, and someone just come off to me like that. It really, and then there was a lot of that too at work, where you go, sometimes you would feel like someone would just call you out like a name or something, and it was
a lot of it is disguised as jokes. People will try to make jokes and say, oh, I'm just making a joke, ha ha, it's funny, but it's not a joke, and they don't mean it as a joke. They're just covering up. And so that's how a lot of it comes out over in America.
And at work too, it's kind of like, I felt like you really had to prove your worth. Like, you're here, yes, you can.
You had to go above and beyond.
Your experience, but you have to go above and beyond to show that you're actually good at what you do, because people question. And it was, I just didn't like it.
And Jeff, ever experienced racism here in Kenya?
Not so much. I would say the racism I experience is everywhere I go, people assume that I'm going to leave like a trail of money behind me, like Santa Claus or something. So if I'm trying to be friendly or nice to someone that I meet, it always feels like they're looking at me like I'm an ATM machine. Like, what can I say to this guy to get money from him?
Manipulating you.
And so it always feels like it's a transactional relationship with any local. Not everyone, but most of the locals that I meet, I feel like they're looking at me like I'm money rather than a person. And so I don't get the same kind of racism, but I'm always looked at as a sponsor
and they've
or a patron.
We've had people tell me like, oh yeah, you're so lucky you've got a sponsor, you know. And in the beginning it used to bother me so much.
And it still bothers me a little because I didn't go and buy Doreen. Our relationship is not transactional. And everyone assumes that about us. So that's the difficult part for me here.
It has been hard creating relationship or social life with locals here.
Well, truth is, we didn't have a social life in America. We're very private, and we like a quiet, peaceful existence.
We're like each other's friend.
So
it's like we socialize like this. This is our social life with our kids. But it's been easy for us to meet people here in Kenya, and we have made quite a few friends and met some really interesting people. We have.
The international school we took the boys to, there were people from all over the world. And all over Kenya. And so that was great to meet lots of different people. And that part was actually easier for the boys because there were mixed kids there.
And so there are kids that look like them.
Otherwise, the kids say, I'm black in America, I'm white here, I don't fit anywhere. But there were other mixed kids, and there was more of a community.
Talk about the health system in the US.
It's expensive. That's the number one reason that people go bankrupt in the US is they get sick. And even if you have insurance, health insurance in America is probably going to be your number 2 expense behind rent. Health insurance is incredibly expensive, and you can still go bankrupt with that if you get really sick or in a bad accident. And so anything you want to do in America that's health related is unbelievably expensive, first of all. And then here in Kenya, I had a small surgery in Mombasa, and I called the doctor on the phone, and he said, come on down. We drove down there, had the surgery. I spent the night. We went home. It was very casual and easy. And much cheaper.
Much cheaper compared to...
Much cheaper. In America, I would have been waiting for months.
You have to
make appointments.
Be sent to a specialist, and then that specialist kind of like bring him in and take tests first.
Yeah, and you have to fit their schedule
Their
because they're super busy. And then you have to check if your insurance will pay
Cover for it.
whatever medical you're going to have. Yeah,
And
medical
he had just called the doctor, and the doctor just said, come in. And we couldn't be able to go for him to check you first. And he was okay with it.
Yeah.
So we walked in the hospital, and Jeff had a surgery that same day that the doctor is meeting us.
yeah.
Which we were just like, oh my gosh, you know, like
So
this
casual and easy.
Yeah, it was casual and easy, and we really.
Yeah, well, and we, Cade had baby teeth that were not getting loose, and his adult teeth were growing in behind.
Yeah.
So Doreen had to take him to the dentist to get 4 teeth removed, pulled out.
Yeah.
And that
First
was
I thought it was going to be 2 teeth.
Yeah.
And then when we got to the dentist, he was like, oh, we'll have to pull the 4 so he can have space for the big teeth to grow in.
Yeah.
And I was so scared because I had bad experience here going to the dentist. And I realized that dentist was just so good with Cade. Cade did not cry. He was just so calm.
Yeah.
And I realized it was me reacting from my old fears. So I had to calm myself down. That was, And they pulled 4 teeth, and it was a good experience. And now his teeth all grown in.
Yeah, so we've had, I think you have to get to know the people in Kenya that get to know your doctors, get to know the hospital.
Yeah.
In America, it's just a big system.
Yeah.
You don't get to choose anything.
No, it goes
And
by
you get
insurance.
assigned things by your insurance, and hopefully you recover.
Yeah.
So in a lot of ways, I prefer the local health systems here. They're easier to navigate.
Yeah.
You get to know the people who are working on you or helping you. And if you don't like them, you can go to someone else.
Yeah.
You don't get those choices in America, and everything costs 10 times as much.
Yeah.
And the bigger problem in America too is if you have to miss work, you can't miss work in America.
No.
You can't miss work.
And here?
Here, if you need to take time off from work or something, you can arrange it, but
You can get sick that morning.
there's too many bills in America for you to miss work.
Yeah.
You can't fall behind
Some
on your
people,
bills.
that's how they get sick. They lose their job. You lose your home. You become homeless.
Just that quick.
Just that quick. Yeah.
Yeah, and there's a lot of homeless in America who are working.
Yeah.
They have jobs,
Yeah.
and they're still homeless.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the homelessness in America is increasing.
Oh yeah. When we left, it was just bad.
Yeah.
It was a lot of homeless.
Yeah, you even find homeless in the rural areas now, which is different. But every city in America has a homeless problem.
Yeah.
Housing prices are so high for rent and for buying.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Talk about traditions in US comparing with
Traditions?
the culture.
The culture there. Wow. I feel like America is like so many people that have come to America with everybody's have their own tradition. So
One of the difficult things about American culture and traditions today, like for my family, for instance, is when I was young, my grandparents lived close by, and different relatives lived close by in the same town. For my generation, when we grew up, I moved 3 or 4 times for work to different states, and you don't see your family anymore. And so if you want a career path in a corporation that will take you to a high-paying job, you wait until an opportunity opens up within your company, and you take it wherever it is, in a different state, wherever they move you. And so then you're alone in a strange city, in a strange state, just for work, for the money.
yeah.
And so families get pulled apart that way. So I didn't see my grandparents a lot. I didn't see my parents much anymore. My brother lived in another state altogether.
Yeah.
So getting together just for family gatherings was really hard.
Once a year probably. Like
And work is so demanding that it pulls you.
So let's talk about lifestyle now.
One of the things that we really enjoy here in Kenya is, we talked about it a little, but that slower pace of life.
Yeah.
Everyone in America has to work so hard to pay all their bills.
Keep up the lifestyle there.
It's exhausting.
It is.
And year after year, it really takes a toll on your body. And that was one of the reasons that we started getting into yoga.
Yeah.
Is when you find yourself hopping up in the morning, you jump in your car, you sit in traffic for an hour or two, then you go to work and you sit, and then you sit in traffic again. By the time you get home, you've been sitting in this position for like 10 hours, maybe more. And my job at the time, I had to drive a lot too during the day. So I was just sitting. And then your back starts to hurt and you get stiff and sore and your digestion doesn't work right. And so many Americans are unhealthy, overweight, in pain. And then they go to the doctor and say, give me a pill so that I feel better. And then they have to buy the pills or the injections or whatever, just so they can get back to work. And it's a vicious cycle of a lifestyle. And so even when Americans get to the age where they can retire and stop working, they're so broken down physically that they have trouble enjoying life. And that was one of the things that we noticed right away here in Kenya, is that especially when you go out to the rural areas, those are the healthiest people I've ever seen in my life.
But they're described as poor people.
They're described as poor, but they eat food they grow. It's healthy, it's organic, it's fresh. They move around, they don't get stuck in chairs like it's a prison where you're typing on a computer for 8 hours and this is the only wherever you sit for 8 hours. They move around, they're active.
And they're very active. They go to the farm, they get water from the they
use latrines.
They all have a six-pack, they're strong. They look like Americans want to look. And Americans pay a lot of money to go to the gym, to buy special supplements and special foods and special diets that all cost money, to try to lose weight, to try to get in shape, but they're stuck in these lifestyles that make you very unhealthy and put you in pain. And so we discovered yoga to stretch out those tight points from the sitting, the endless sitting. And that's this last year especially, we really enjoyed that. Breaking out of that, you feel like you're a prisoner at your job a lot of the time.
And we just got tired. Jeff would go all day. My work is pretty, I would say,
as a model.
So I would be home more with the boys, and then I would go like once, twice, or I'd be gone for a while and then come back. But I spend most of the time with the kids. But then Jeff was always gone, so we're not together. We love to spend time together. So being in America and trying to work and sustain your lifestyle there, Jeff had to work a lot, and so it was just like, we can't see each other, we text all the time, and then when he comes home he's very tired, so it's just like it's time to go to bed, and then the next day it's the same thing.
Up and hop out to work. And so on the weekends all I would try to do is rest because I'm tired.
Sleep.
And that's one of the reasons we started saying, oh, we're going to retire in Kenya, to going all the way to saying, no, let's just move there. Is we wanted to get healthy again. We wanted to get happy again.
The quiet, slow pace, lots of yoga.
And that's what we found here.
And before we go to yoga video, I would love to know, how is it raising kids in America and Kenya, especially when they are mixed kids?
Well, we talk about here in Kenya, we call them team stare hard. Every time we go out in public, everyone just stares at us.
Because you're white or because you're brown?
Because we're mixed. They stare at the kids, but if Doreen is driving, everyone turns and stares at her. We get the same thing in America.
We do. We got stared a lot in America.
We go to stores and we get stared at by adults who should know better. The kids get stared at. And there was mixed kids when they went to school in America, but there was open racism in schools. Kids calling each other terrible names.
They come home with like the N-word. you know, they hear it at school.
Yeah.
So it's just like, yeah, we were.
So that was really difficult.
It was.
And that's one of the things that we wanted to get away from is just growing up in this culture where that kind of racism is just, there's racist jokes. There's stuff all over the internet about racism.
Yeah.
It's just constant in America.
Yeah.
And they never let you forget either the color of your skin or where you came from.
Yeah.
And here in Kenya, sure, they point at you as different, but there's not the name calling or the things that we experienced in America. It's different.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I think, I guess it's just like Jeff's, he stands out because his color is very different from us, you know. But we haven't really had anyone like come out and call names or
be mean.
or be
Yeah.
mean.
Or maybe staring at you.
Maybe, just the staring.
Yeah.
That's it.
And we had to get used to that. Every time we would go out, I'm just like, oh my gosh, what's going on? I'm trying to hide, and we talked about it, and we just realized, like, you know, this is just how it is.
Yeah.
Like, just
And a
flow
lot of
with
people
it.
are just curious, especially
Yes.
when we get out into the rural countryside.
Yeah.
They
They
haven't
want
seen a lot
to
of
feel
white
his
people.
hair.
Yeah.
And it happened to me too. When I was in America, people would want to touch my skin, feel my hair. It's happening to him. So
Yeah.
He's done now.
yeah.
And a lot of that's just curiosity.
It's
in
curiosity.
Yes,
Yeah.
most of the time.
Yeah, even in America, I felt like it was curiosity.
A lot
People
of
would want to feel your skin and feel your texture of hair is different.
Yeah.
So I look at it as just curiosity. But the name calling,
Yeah.
So my first work in America, I was graduating from high school, and I had this high school project to do, like, graduate. Before you graduate, you have to do this project as a senior. And I did a project at, it was like a senior home, where I went and just kind of looked around of how they work there with the activities they do. So that was my project, and I ended up getting, hired there, which was really good. So that was my first job as a server. So I would serve the senior people that live there food.
Yeah.
And that was my first job, and it was actually really good. The people there were really nice to me, and it helped me grow.
Yeah.
And then after that, I just kind of find another job, and it just went changing jobs. I just felt like with America there was more opportunities, so I was able to, like, when you leave this job, you can find another job.
Wow.
Those days, that back in the days, I don't know about now. And that was actually it was okay for me. Yeah, like I said, I dealt with racism here and there. But my first job, I didn't. That was like a really good experience for me. And then I got into nursing. My parents wanted me to do nursing.
So you're a nurse by profession?
So I went into this, I was in school and I did some nursing, yes.
Yeah.
And I came to realize that it wasn't my dream, it was my parents' dream. So walking away from that there was a lot of shame, there was a lot of guilt. But I needed to walk away because I realized it wasn't my thing.
Yeah.
And what I wanted to do after I graduated high school, I wanted to become a model. But my parents thought that, what is modeling gonna help you with, And so I ended up just following what my parents wanted me to do, and that's what I did. And then I didn't like it, so I dropped out from doing that. And that was the time I met Jeff. So I was like rebuilding, figuring out my career, figuring out myself, and then I met Jeff. And that's how
and I encouraged her to get back into modeling and explore it more. Because it made her happy, and it was a good fit for her personality, and it has been. It's been really great. So I just it started slowly. I started in 2019. Before, actually, I tried to do modeling. I moved to Rome, and it was just like it didn't work. And so when I came back and I met Jeff, he was like, "Oh, why don't you just go back to what you really wanted to do?" And that's just how I started slowly, like, working into myself into modeling, and that's just how it's been. So I've slowly worked myself. I feel like now I feel more confident in doing modeling, and I feel like that's the stuff that I've always wanted to do, because for me modeling is
art.
Yeah.
And I look at myself as art.
Yeah.
So I'm showcasing my art.
Yeah.
When I go into modeling, I turn into the character, and that's different. So I always want people to see my work as, I don't really tell people I'm a model. I always say that I'm just art.
Yeah.
But that's my profession. I just
Okay.
showing
so
my
you
art.
model to date.
Yes, that's
Okay.
my what I do. Yeah.
And now you're living in Kenya. How will you be doing it?
Good question. When we came, I was telling Jeff that I love to meet local creatives.
Yes.
Not even just for payment,
No.
but to create African, because that's what I feel like I'm craving, creating African art, But it's been difficult. It's been
Right.
difficult just kind of trying to collaborate with people, and everyone lives in different areas, try to bring people together and just like, let's say, do a collaboration that's not a paid job.
Yeah.
Everyone here wants to get paid, and I completely understand. I don't want to just bring someone and then they
But
go
some
home.
people who are passionate.
But I've met some people who want to collaborate, but it's just like with the time and what we've been into, and they live in Nairobi and we were in Malindi, so you kind of like crash.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm hoping that I would meet more creatives to create artwork, African especially. I want to do more African stuff, and meeting local people and create with them. That's like, I've been telling Jeff, that's my dream. I want to do that, and expose myself to that.
And now that you have a YouTube channel, I think you can be reaching out.
Yes,
to your YouTube channel.
yes.
Yeah, so that they
Pole pole.
Yeah, pole pole. And Jeff, now you live in Kenya. What are you up to?
It's been online work,
Okay.
consulting from experiences in my background, and then some different online work and writing and things, just kind of freelancer work and things like that. So that would be my recommendation to people who are considering moving from the States or other, the West, parts of the West, is if you can put your career online and make it transferable, that's the best, because cost of living here in Kenya is so much lower than the States, so much lower. So if you can come in with American dollars income or euros, something like that, then it's much easier, even with a lower paying job. You can be very comfortable here in Kenya. So if people are able to take their skills online and then make that abroad, where they can live and work abroad online, come to Kenya or any other country, and you can find a lot more affordable, happy lifestyle.
So
And you, as a Kenyan wife, okay, what advice do you have for a Kenyan wife who are living in America and they have plans to relocate here in Kenya, having been married to a white American guy?
Oh, like an interracial couple. That's a good question. I feel like mostly it's just kind of like go with the flow. I feel like more it's like, if you're into like slow life, this is like the best. I enjoy being here. It's given me a chance to just sit back and take a chance to rest and not go, So I would definitely, advise.
And the materialism. America is so full of things to buy, and that you have to have, and there's stores everywhere you go trying to sell you things. And here in Kenya, there's not as many things as in America, and for us, it's been a relief to get away from all that stuff.
Because it become like a pressure. It's kind of like people get into this competition, like, oh, we want to buy this and have this, who has a, and it's hard to not get into it because it's there, it's right there, just flashing, buy me. But being able to just be away from it, it gives you peace in your heart,
It does. You get the things that you need to make your life happy.
Shelter,
and
food,
you just leave all the rest behind. Yeah, and you find out that you don't need as much stuff as you had.
Yeah.
When we came here, we had to pack everything in our lives
In 2 suitcases.
into 2 suitcases.
Each of us, yeah. And that's when we realized, like, we had detached ourselves from my things, all my things, my shoes. I came here and I brought only one pair of heels. And I mean, I do modeling.
Yeah,
People would be
I do
like, hey, you should have. But before we moved, we had cut back on our stuff. Like 95% of our stuff we just got rid of. And we realized how happy we were from just having less stuff. Because more stuff was just like a headache. You have to find place to put.
Yeah, in America,
You know?
one of the biggest businesses out there right now is self-storage.
Yeah.
People have to rent big garages to pack full of the stuff that doesn't fit in their house.
Yeah.
They're just overflowing with stuff.
Yeah.
So then you're paying to store your stuff. And
That's why I hear from
gets insane.
internet. Most of America dispose their things.
Yes, you find things,
Yeah.
couches, fridge thrown outside. People just go, you know, someone else's trash is someone else picks it up and they go and use those.
So
And I remember that time. For me, in the beginning when we were in America, we used to be like, "What? They're throwing nice couches. People are throwing fridge, TV. You know, it's just out on the street." And yeah, so
But yeah, getting rid of all our things.
yeah,
was-
we really
felt
got
like you're getting freed.
Yeah.
we got into the minimalist life.
Okay.
Yeah, Jeff has a few clothes. I have a few clothes. The kids have a few clothes. Few pairs of shoes. We don't need. We used to have so many things that we were just like, for what? Clothes sometimes that you don't even wear. Shoes that you don't. You end up with so many pairs of shoes because you're just constantly buying.
Yeah.
And I came to realize that less stuff is peaceful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
And that's what
here's
we
a great example. When we were moving out of Seattle, we had a big couch that was nice and new, and I didn't want it anymore. So my brother and I took it to Goodwill, which is a secondhand donation
sure.
place.
Yeah.
They didn't want it. They say we don't take couches anymore. There's so many couches.
Yeah.
We don't want couches. We won't accept it. So then I'm like, well, what am I going to do with this couch in my truck? Where are we going to take it?
Yeah.
And then if you're going to take it to a dump or something like that, you have to pay money to leave the couch there.
Yeah.
And so then we were like, okay, we'll just put it out on the street somewhere.
Yeah.
This is all we
Someone else will pay.
Yeah.
and that's
Getting
what
rid of your stuff costs money.
money. We had to pay to dump the stuff too. Remember
Yes.
in Sacramento, we had to pay to go dump the stuff we didn't want.
Garbage and things.
Because you can't take it to the Goodwill.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And even the dump costs money.
Yeah, even the dump costs money.
There's just
Yeah.
so many things there.
Talk
So-
about owning a property in US and Kenya.
Wow.
Like land, what? House.
that.
Real estate has turned into a game in the U.S.
Yeah.
Where people, if you ever watch those house flipping shows that they have on U.S. television, someone wants to buy a house for $250,000, put $50,000 into it, and then sell it for $500,000. That's turned into a game. So everybody's always trying to raise the prices of the real estate.
Yeah.
And even if you own the real estate outright, you still have property taxes. You have all the different water, sewer, gas stuff never goes away.
Yeah.
Electricity, all this stuff that you have to pay. So even
Yeah.
owning your own property in the U.S., if you can afford the down payment and the monthly payments, there's still more payments.
Yeah,
on
the
owning
mortgage.
land.
Yeah, I feel like America makes it becomes stressful because you've bought this beautiful home, but then you gotta pay for the mortgage, pay for the insurance, and there's all these
All
other
the
bills
upkeep
that
and maintenance.
and maintenance. In Kenya, it's so easy. You just buy a land, you put a house, and that's it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
What she pays water and
you just pay water and electricity,
Yeah.
you know, and
Yeah.
like the garbage to help you
Yeah.
take the garbage. But it's so much less stress here.
And then once you own it, you own
You
it.
own it,
That's
yeah.
it.
yeah, it's yours.
It's
Like,
yours. In America, if you
Yeah.
can't pay mortgage, they take your home. Even like you've paid maybe half of it, the bank still takes your home.
Yeah.
So you end up being
Well, and if you fall behind on your property,
property
taxes,
tax.
if you own your home
Yeah.
outright, they'll still
That's
take you.
crazy.
Yeah.
yeah, they will
Yeah.
still take your home. So you're constantly stressed out that you've got to work to
the
pay
next
for
bills.
the next bill, to pay for this mortgage.
What if you fall sick, maybe along the journey?
Then
Yeah.
you go.
Work.
Then you go bankrupt.
Yeah.
Oh,
You go
Yeah.
bankrupt. Medical
That's-
falling sick in America is the number 2 reason people go bankrupt.
Yeah.
Or number 1 or number 2 reason people go bankrupt. And if you go bankrupt, they'll come for all your assets,
Yeah.
everything that you own.
They take it.
So that's the
And then
thing
you're
that we-
reduced to like you have nothing.
Yeah.
What if you have kids, like small kids?
They
Then
don't
you're,
No, I
then you're
guess.
homeless with
then you're
kids.
homeless with kids. And you
Yeah.
see here we have ancestral lands
Yeah.
where if I'm not doing good in Nakuru, I can go to my back to Shago.
Yeah.
They still, I have a place to
Yeah.
actually,
Yeah.
I can go. In America, I feel like,
No, you're always on your own.
yeah,
And there's always a bill coming that you will have to pay.
yeah,
Wow,
Yeah.
crazy.
That's why we wanted to retire here in Kenya. It's
Yeah.
much cheaper and more peaceful.
yeah. I do earn a living in modeling, yes. So yeah, when I started, you know, you kind of have to put your foot in where you don't know stuff. So you have to meet photographers to create a portfolio. And then I remember I got one of the agency, they came and they found me at a fashion show. And that's how I got discovered with an agency. And it just started slowly from there, and I picked up from there, and I got another agency. And yes, I work I'm a professional model. I do get paid. Yes.
In America,
Yes.
yeah, in America, you kind of start out doing collaborative work.
Yeah.
Yes.
Where people say we're going to put on a local fashion show,
Yeah.
and local designers put their stuff on with local models, and everyone gets their picture taken, and it goes up on social media. And then you meet an agency, and you get professional work from that.
Yes, and you work too with local photographers, and that's how I got my portfolio, by collaborating with different photographers.
For
Just
unpaid work.
unpaid work. So I started as unpaid model, and then I just built myself into, you know,
And
Paid.
what advice do you have for Kenyan models?
what advice.
Do yoga.
Do yoga, and modeling is about accepting yourself the way you are. I came to realize that we tend to we want to look different, put the fake hair, the fake nails, the fake eyelashes. Modeling is about, they want to see you natural. And when you are, it doesn't
Well, you
matter
show up to
how-
gigs with no makeup.
no makeup, no, you have to be natural, and you really have to be comfortable in who you are, accepting your flaws, confidence. That's about modeling. And for me, I always tell Jeff, modeling has been, it made me accept myself. It was a journey of self-acceptance, because you look at, like for me, growing up here in Kenya, I was not considered a pretty person. People used to tell me, oh, you're too dark, your neck is too long.
Because here we see brown. or
Yeah,
white
like
parts.
lighter is better here. And then when I went to America, everyone used to be like, oh my gosh, your skin is beautiful. And for me, I was like, what? I grew up not, you know, even you want to look different.
Getting
Yes.
made fun of.
People make fun of me.
Yeah.
And it made me want to change myself,
Yeah.
made me want to look different. And I remember telling Jeff how with my long neck, I used to get a lot of jokes, you know, people joke about your neck. So it made me start walking like this. And then when I started modeling, I realized, you know, one of my manager was she was kept telling me, put your shoulders down, you've got to show your neck. Your neck is what we, you know.
What we want.
Yes. So being like, you know, I had to accept myself, the way I look, for me to really bring out the beauty. It's my acceptance, myself.
Yeah, because otherwise you just look like an inferior copy of someone else
Someone
who's
else,
already doing
yeah.
modeling instead of your own unique beauty.
Beauty, yeah. So yeah, for the models, I would definitely tell them, be you.
Yeah.
Accept yourself as you are. Be confident in that. That is the beauty of doing modeling.
Yeah.
And
it's a career.
And it's a career, I turned it into a career, and I turned it into a career as a mom of 2. Because I remember I used to tell
In
Jeff,
your 30s.
how can I be a model and I'm in my 30s and I have 2 kids? So it was me looking down on myself, and the society tells you like, oh, you're a mom, you should be mommy. But then I picked it up in my 30s,
Yeah.
and here I am, 35, and modeling is my. I do modeling.
And where do you see yourself in next 5 years and 10 years as a model?
I see myself like higher than where I'm at. You know, like we kind of like want to rush it, but I realize it's the journey,
Yeah.
just getting there. So I do see myself as high fashion model, and I'm slowly working myself there with Adut and the rest of the models. Anoki, I'm always watching them, and I'm always inspired by their work, their beauty, you know, and they're Sudanese, like me, you know.
And
Luo.
now that you're back in Africa, you want to focus on African type of...
African, yes. I really want to showcase the African beauty. That's really what I really want. Like, yeah, Africa is beautiful, and we need to show and tell our own stories, you know. So that's, yeah.
And one thing they're seeing, you see it a lot in high fashion, the new designs will have African patterns, like the pattern of your shirt. You'll see that in high fashion, and they steal it straight from Africa and put it on shirts coming out
the
of
Maasai stuff.
Milan or
Yes.
Paris.
Yeah.
Yes, they
Yeah.
steal the Maasai patterns, the colors,
Yeah.
straight from Africa, and then, but it's a European fashion.
Yeah.
So,
They had that too. They steal our culture and
Yes.
put it in their
and
fashion.
then they take the money
sell
from
to
selling
us.
it.
Very
Yes.
expensive.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
So there's a lot of beauty
You
in
invest
Africa,
yourself.
period.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I've seen so many beautiful people where I'm just like, oh my gosh, there's so many models here
Yes.
that they don't even realize it. But
Also, you see someone, you're like,
yeah,
Yes.
you see someone, you're
Yes.
just like, oh my gosh. It's
Men
like, I
and
want to
women.
bring my own camera and take photos of these people because there's so much beauty here, you know,
Yeah,
and it's
there really
looked
is.
down on. Yeah.
Everybody wants to be somebody else.
Yeah.
Me included, I was one of them. I wanted to be someone else because
Yeah.
you're told
Yeah.
your looks
Yeah.
are not
You don't
good.
look like
Yeah.
this, but okay.
And it's
Yeah.
that uniqueness that
Yeah.
they look for.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you think you one day start recruiting models here in Africa?
Yeah, it's something I've thought of, you know. But as of now, I feel like there's so much that I want to do.
To you first, yeah.
Yeah, and I'm just telling myself, don't bite too many things. So I'm kind of like taking a step at a time. But it's something that I've thought about.
We
that
have talked about how great it would be to bring her American contacts
That's what I wanted to
into
do.
contact
With the Kenyan
African
creators.
models,
Yeah,
and
models,
creators,
stylists, photographers.
tailors.
Yeah, I had one of a photographer that came from California, and he wanted to shoot with me, but you know the time.
Yeah.
And there's so many other photographers that in California they want to come to Kenya, and I was telling Jeff like it would be so great to bring them together.
Yeah.
America, Kenya, and just all of us create.
And
You know.
work.
Yeah.
Create art,
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, I was thinking of like a modeling photographer, like a workshop, and we just like come together and people can showcase their stuff. You know, bring models, bring all that stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you work with photographers here in Kenya?
I haven't. I would love to, but it's just that I haven't gotten the chance to. Like I say, I wanted to collaborate, but it's always like someone is so far, or you know, life. Everyone is busy. But yeah, I would definitely love to work with photographers here.
And they might
And
be watching this video.
I
Talk to
really,
the
I would
photographers.
love to work with photographers in Kenya and just create African art, especially.
Yeah.
Like, show that beauty.
Yeah.
Tell our own story,
Yeah.
you know. That is really my dream.
So they can reach out to you.
Yes.
Oh, that would be great.
Yes, that would be
Yeah.
really good. Yeah.
Where they can find you.
We both have Instagram. So my Instagram is @Tieno Aitanayer. We'll have to spell that.
Yeah.
That's my Instagram. And for Jeff is chaotic
Chaotic
good
Good
druid, or you can just type Jeff Aitanayer and you will find him. And also our YouTube channel, which is Jador or Jeff and Doreen.
Yeah.
So that's
Any way people want to reach out.
Yes.
That'd be great.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So YouTube, Instagram, whichever. Yeah.
Instagram is good.
Yes.
To know, to know.
Yeah. Yeah.
Very cool.
So, yeah.